Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm super happy because today I'm with Michaeljohn, who's created the RISE Fund and helped a lot of small businesses, over 900 actually, in the Miami area. You've helped save about 4,500 jobs with the RISE Fund, and you're doing a lot of great projects in Miami and in Florida. So super happy to be with you, Michaeljohn.
Oh, happy to be here, man. I really appreciate the opportunity, Rob.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your background. You started in private wealth. What initially got you in private wealth, and then we're going to continue after that where you're going.
Sure. My degree is actually I have an IT degree, Management Information Systems. When I graduated school, I always wanted to make an impact, and I had the opportunity to work for CDFI in St. Louis called Justine Peterson. CDFIs are community development financial institutions. I got there, I did a couple of loans. I remember vividly uh, two loans that I was trying to get done got turned down by my boss at the time. And I really believed in those businesses outside of their credit score and anything else. I went to the CEO. I sat down with him and said, "Hey, I really believe in these loans. Could you take a second look?" And he didn't even look at me. He said, "Man, if you believe in them, you feel good about them, let's do them." We did both of those loans. One was actually a deep fried rib place. The other one was a candy store in an urban neighborhood. Both of them were extremely successful. The candy store, I think, opened up two or three more candy stores and then sold, sent their kids to college and all of that. And through that experience, I realized not necessarily technology, but I thought that finance and financial services is where I could really see the impact and change people's lives. I left St. Louis and went to go work for JP Morgan, Bank of America, but spent most of the time at the Bank of Montreal in private wealth management. Learned a lot there, had some great mentors, but then came back to CDFIs to an opportunity to start a fund here in Opelika that really focused on lending to Black and Brown and minority owned small businesses. Did that for quite a while and then started the RISE Fund, which you mentioned during the pandemic. At the very beginning of the pandemic, PPP and EDIO were difficult for small businesses across America to access. And in Miami, we set up basically our own fund to support those small businesses, right? It was extremely successful, the most successful small business loan fund and the largest set up during the pandemic outside of PPP and EDIL. And that got me a job. I was a deputy director of economic development for Miami-Dade County. And now I'm the chief of economic development for the Miami-Dade Development Authority. We really focused on economic development, prosperity in the Brickell, downtown, Edgewater, and the Arts District.
Very nice. And I saw you had an interview about crypto, especially you're probably exposed to a lot of growing startups, and I think Miami is becoming a space where there's a lot of businesses moving in. You've got the big ones and you've got the smaller ones as well. So what's the kind of landscape you're seeing right now moving into Miami?
Well, I think the first things I'll say about that is that, there's all these businesses moving to Miami, and it's not because of the fun and the sun. I think that that's one part of it, right? Work-life balance, and I think through the pandemic is extremely important. But I think the other reason that people are moving to Miami, and if you are an investor or in financial service or anything like that, I think that you'll understand, and that's diversification, right? And the diversity in Miami offers a huge amount of opportunity. Miami being one of the most diverse small business communities in America and one of the most diverse communities in America. I mean, so I think that that is attractive when you think of businesses being able to grow. And as America changes, Miami is already ahead of that curve from our, demographic makeup. The companies that we're seeing come to Miami are pretty broad. I think that we have, and Bon Appetit rated us the number one restaurant place for the last year. And so we're seeing a host of restaurants and new experiences. Miami has always led in entertainment and experiences, but we're really also too growing in the startup space, thanks to Lab 22C, thanks to Emerge, and a bunch of others, the Knight Foundation that have really been pushing that for years and years. But then also financial services continue to grow. Miami is a gateway and has been a gateway to Latin America, but now we really have become more of a global gateway. And so I'm actually working with a host of financial services firms from the UK that are looking to move here, Latin America, and really across the United States. They're actually building a trading floor, which should open in the next couple of months in Miami. It's a partnership between MIEX and some other investors in Citadel. But it will be a trading floor. Bloomberg will have a TV show. So every day in the financial services world, you'll hear someone saying, reporting live from Miami. And so I think that that landscape mixed with the diversity and the work-life balance is what really makes this a very attractive place to really grow your business.
Yeah, and what do you think really initiated that? Is it, tax movements? Is it, what do you think is really fueling that growth and everyone moving to Miami?
So I worked in wealth management. Miami and the state of Florida's, uh, let's say, tax benefits have been there for a long time, right? Wyoming and the multiple other states have similar things, so I think people give that a lot of credit, but I don't. I think that during the pandemic, people realized what an amazing place this is to live. From the beauty, from the water, the ease of getting around. Even though we're experiencing more traffic, you can get across town in Miami in 25 minutes. I think LA and New York, that's much different, right? So even that, with the traffic, I think it's a little bit easier to get around. I think that diversity as well. Miami is kind of its own, especially Miami-Dade County, its own microcosm with its own mix, its own flavor. It definitely leans heavy South American or Latin American. But then you also see the main trade partner with Miami is actually, Spain. And so you see a lot of companies from all over coming here, people from all over. And I truthfully believe that Miami is the quintessential American dream right now at the moment, right? It's people from all over the world, entrepreneurial, moving somewhere, looking to be successful. If you come and you visit here, you feel it, you see it, you breathe it. And I think that for people that really believe in the American dream, people that believe what America is really about, I think you see that in Miami. And I think that for the ones that we live here, I think that excites a lot of people.
Absolutely, and I would agree. I love the Miami space. We also have a few properties in Boynton, and it's just so peaceful, especially certain seasons. There's a lot of golf around there, so obviously it's a really, really nice place. What do you think is really the opportunities when it comes to startups? You spoke about briefly on this other interview about crypto. So what are the opportunities in DeFi, crypto, startups, tech companies in Miami?
I think, proximity to Latin America and the Caribbean, I think that some of the, for lack of a better word, maybe dream of crypto is really to connect and support, communities that really need that. If it maybe been locked out of certain financial systems or uh, aren't as connected to those systems. And so a ton of those folks live here. The connections here are deep and tight. But the startup scene and the startup culture and the ideas and the entrepreneurial spirit really lives here in Miami. Miami is the number one place in America for Latin American founders to find capital. And as Citadel, as Blackstone, and other companies really move to Miami, the opportunities for capital and the other VCs, Andrew Horowitz opened up an office here. Um, you have those opportunities to have that kind of magic happen where a great idea meets the appropriate amount of capital and is really able to explode. The mayor of the city of Miami, the mayor of Miami-Dade County, the Knight Foundation, the Miami Foundation, Emerge, have all really worked together to kind of really push and to try our best to make a great tech ecosystem. Even here where I work at the DDA, in April, we'll have a competition and we'll be giving entrepreneurs from around the world an opportunity to pitch and granting them $25,000 to build and grow their ideas here in Miami.
Very nice. And do you think generally the regulation space is open enough for certain companies and certain projects? For example, we were talking about 3D printing of houses, right? Do you think that Florida and especially Miami is open enough on a regulation standpoint to allow those ideas to grow?
I'm going to say broadly, yes. I think regulation, the thing about it is it comes from the federal level, different agencies, some things that are maybe outside of obviously Miami-Dade County's control, sometimes outside of the state's control. But I think that we are interested in new ideas. We have a very, very unique environment, right? With 90% of the green beans eaten in America are grown in Miami-Dade County. I think people don't understand the economic diversity that's here, right? From financial institutions to, you know, the number one clubs and restaurants in the world are here in Miami, as well as if you buy a succulent off Amazon, it's a 92% chance it came from Miami-Dade County. All of the green beans and all of these different things, a host of the exotic plants and flowers. And so I think that the opportunity is there. I think that the diversity in talent and in ideas and the entrepreneurial spirit pushes things forward. But we all need to come together on regulation to help things work better and connect better on the local municipal level, the state level, and the federal level. But I think that the way in which Florida and the way in which Miami-Dade County and the city support entrepreneurs, I would say we're at least trying our best to make those things happen.
Very nice. And what are the opportunities that you're seeing over the next coming years in that space, especially in the financial sector? You're talking about a lot of companies coming in. What are the other opportunities that you're seeing coming into Miami over the next couple of years?
I mean, Citadel, right? Citadel, they're market makers, right? Citadel is a backer and a market maker of this trading floor that's opened up in Wynwood, right? People don't know Miami has the seventh or eighth largest stock exchange in the world. It's really mostly an options exchange. But with the opening of this trading floor in Wynwood, they'll probably move to, five or four largest stock exchange in the world, right? So right probably behind the London Stock Exchange. Huge amount of opportunity there in financial services, huge amount of opportunity in jobs. But also, I think that we talk about crypto, but crypto is really blockchain. And the blockchain technology and the settlement of payments will change finance, right? And so that technology will be implemented in all of this. And I think that Miami is a unique position to lead in that. And then as you think about as things changing and the world becomes more globally connected, in Miami, you can find someone from Venezuela, you can find someone from Dubai, you can find someone from London to really be able to help you have the cultural competency to be able to connect with people in those other countries, but also to really lead your organizations for what the future world and the future diversity and those different types of things will look like. And so I think that from the financial service level, there's a ton of opportunities. But then I was talking to some partners of ours at the Greater Convention and Visitors Bureau, right, that really focuses on travel. One of the amazing things that Miami has is opportunity for transactions, right? When you talk about the wealthy individuals that are here, the 100,000 plus, I actually saw some numbers, it's really around 300,000 people a month that get off cruise ships downtown looking to spend money. Those opportunities for transactions don't exist in St. Louis, where I'm from, Nebraska. I would even argue Chicago, right? You really are only competing with New York and LA, and I think that California and LA is relatively spread out. Miami, a much more dense area. The opportunity for transactions on all levels for your business are huge here.
Yeah. And I know with your background starting in and getting into private wealth, and then you realize that there was a discrepancy in the representation, you're really focused on your community. So do you see any specific opportunities, even with the RISE Fund that you've been helping with, for people that might be underrepresented or all of that? Do you see a lot of different opportunities that are growing in Miami?
100%. The RISE Fund had over a 70% minority representation. Almost 10% of the loans went to African American small businesses. Small businesses owned by African Americans in America is a fraction of 1%, right? So, we 10x or not even maybe 100x that number, right? I think that the Miami Foundation, in partnership with Wells Fargo, which I'm on the board of that engagement, had a $20 million fund set up. They gave half of the money in grants to minority-owned small businesses and the other half of the money in loans, and really focused on them buying business assets, right, to grow. I mean, I think that when we look across America and we look at the discrepancies between minorities and non-minorities is really around asset accumulation and ownership, right? And so how do you help that? And I think that the Miami Foundation really did a great job of, in the partnership with Wells Fargo, and trying to tackle that. Dade County Federal Credit Union, where the RISE Fund is housed, they continue to do loans. They're probably in almost around 2,000 loans in Miami-Dade County alone, and only focusing in Miami-Dade County. And that fund still exists. It's still open. People can borrow from it right now today. And so I think that the opportunities from a support standpoint are there, right? But then the opportunities are there just economically, just on the transactions, just on the people that are coming here, just on the investment that's being made. I saw a statistic a couple days ago, and it said that there are more cranes here in Miami developing basically 70 stories or more high skyscraper buildings than the entire state of California, right? That's only in Miami-Dade County. So you look at from a development standpoint, when you look at a job standpoint, I think that we have one of the lower unemployments in the nation, if not the lowest unemployment, and we're the most recovered economy in the world since the pandemic. And so I think with the support for minority communities, black, brown, women, indigenous, there's capital there. But then just the capital from an investment standpoint, the opportunity for transactions, all of that is really culminating here. And I think that it gives our entrepreneurs here a huge chance to be successful in organizations like the DDA where I work at. You know, we've changed our incentive program to incentivize ground floor retail. The DDA has never given out grants for ground floor retail. To open up a coffee shop in downtown Miami, where 300,000 people get off a cruise ship every month, we will give you $50,000 to open up that coffee shop. We'll incentivize the startups to move here. We're incentivizing businesses that are looking for more traditional office space. I mean, so I think that, you know, at this moment, all of the stars align. Also, at any moment in Miami, you can leave your office and be on one of the best vacations of your life still here in Miami-Dade County. So I think that through the pandemic, people really realized that, and the stars have kind of aligned and it made this a really, I think the best place in the world to live, work, and play.
Absolutely, I agree. And you spoke about asset ownership. You have a really great background in finance. For people who might be, not as experienced as you, or maybe the version of you 20, 30 years back, a younger version of you, what kind of advice would you give that individual when it comes to planning, building their business, growing? What kind of advice would you give your younger self in terms of how to grow and how to build a successful big business?
I mean, I think, for businesses, I think my favorite document, and I've lent money to probably now, thousands of businesses, cash flow planning. You know, when working in wealth management, my job, was basically to figure out different scenarios and what would happen and how a person might go broke, so we could kind of, protect them against that, right? Budgeting doesn't sound fun, but that is the key piece. There's a favorite saying, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you save, right? And so I think for businesses, really mastering and understanding your cash flow is extremely, extremely important. Looking and seeing, if I tweak this here, how much does it affect my business? At what point in time will I be able to, you know, take on this other opportunity? If I add another employee, how does that affect my business? I think that from a business perspective, that cash flow document and just really being close to that and updating that is really, really important.
Analyzing the P&L every month, all the time. It's the
All
basic. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think a lot of business owners, as you're mentioning, you've been lending, you've been giving grants, but a lot of the nitty gritty stuff at the beginning, at least, is really about that. It's you get to learn the basic fundamental skills, and it's really nice that you've been able to contribute as well financially to help them fund, and then also contributing on a skills standpoint. So, what are the other things that you'd say personally are really important to you in sharing with your community, with people who are growing businesses, who are, what are the other things that you're currently investing your energy and attention with to help small businesses, underrepresented businesses, and minority businesses? What are you doing?
I mean, I think relationships are always important too, right? You can have the greatest business idea, but if no one knows about it and you don't have the appropriate relationships to be able to take it off the ground, you kind of stay in place. I remember woman's high heel shoe luxury company that we funded. After her first round of shoes, she kind of ran out of her friends that could buy a $2,000 heel, right? You can't really ask them to buy another one. And so she was really struggling to do that, wasn't making payments on the loan or was struggling to do that. And even if I would have lent her more money, that wasn't going to make her business successful. My little brother worked at GQ magazine for a while. He has a great relationships with tons of people, right? Relationships are important. One of his friends became one of my friends. She's Dwayne Wade's stylist. I asked her to spend an hour with the young lady in her business. After an hour, she had a lookbook. She'd introduce her to people. And, now her shoes have been worn on the cover of Vogue. Cardi B wore them on Billboard. She's in, I think, 30 Nordstrom stores, right? So I think, similar to any business. Now, I was going to say a startup, but any business, it's capital, opportunity, and relationships. And I think that if you can get a good, strong mix of those and be strong in those three things, your business will be successful.
Capital, opportunities, and relationships. I really like that. Um, then on the capital side, there's a lot of stuff going on. I've been speaking with people who are a little bit more on the VC side, people who are raising funds for real estate. So what is your approach to, do you even buy businesses? Do you do a little bit of VC stuff, or you just do private lending?
Mostly my career has been in private lending or providing advice uh, on the VC side or purchasing of businesses. I've helped finance the purchase of some business. I think all those are great opportunities. I think for the small business person, it's really about figuring which type of capital is right for you, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes I think debt or term loan is the best thing. We all obviously want grants because that's free money, but I think that people need to look at grants as opposed to, something I need for my business as something that's really putting jet fuel or gravy on top, right? If your business can only survive through grants, your business isn't going to make it. But if you can continue to grow and you find opportunities for grants, I think you go after them, and that should add gravy or help you move to the next step of your business even faster. If your business is extremely scalable and you don't mind giving up equity, or the equity that you're giving up brings additional relationships and opportunities, then I think that suits you. So I think it's really about, sitting down, having a conversation and figuring out which one of those is the best type of capital for you to really be able to grow your business.
absolutely. I agree. And when it comes to the good, bad, and the ugly, I was wondering, because you seem like you've traveled a lot of that landscape. I was wondering what the good, bad, and the ugly is that you see when it comes to the financial landscape. Maybe you've seen some good scenarios, and it seems like you've been really helping businesses. For example, this one you just mentioned, the startup with the shoes. But have you been also on the other side seeing like some negative scenarios and what mistakes other people and business owners could avoid? Um, I would like you to maybe share more on like what's the good scenarios you've seen, the bad, and some of them the ugly, so that people can avoid some mistakes that you've learned in your experience.
I'll try. I try to really, I think one of the best things that I learned in wealth management is when it comes to business, I don't really think of anything positively or negatively, right? Everything is an opportunity, right? You can short a stock, right? So that means it falling is only an opportunity if you can see the opportunity, right? So I think, you know, positive side, try as best as possible to be optimistic. And I really, 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 really believe in the silver lining concept of life. Even if it is a negative thing, there probably is a little bit of an opportunity there, right? And I think if you're able to take the emotion out of it, you're able to see that. I think the good, technology is going to change things. And I think the change is only opening the door for other opportunities. And it's really, do you have the capital saved or able to find the capital to take advantage and walk through the door for those opportunities? I mean, I think the bad, the scale on ownership is greatly tilted, which needs to change. And I think the scale, for the most part, around access to capital needs to change. But I'm a firm believer in CDFIs, who are organizations that are looking to change that. I think that counties, cities like Miami-Dade and the city of Miami are looking to make impact where they can. And so I'm really, optimistic about that. But I'm well aware of the difficulties and you know how tilted the scale is. I think there's a book. It's called, I think, The Color of Money, but it goes through basically a history from early 1900s to now. And I mean, there's, I think, around 30 black towns that are under lakes, right? That were completely destroyed. They put a lake on top of it. We all know of Black Wall Street, but there's 30 more places like that. The Highway Act of the, what was that, 40s and 50s that went through black neighborhoods. I think that the feeling and temperament sometimes around immigrants hasn't always been the best, but I think that we see that, areas and towns with immigrant populations economically do pretty well when they're accepted and given opportunities. I think that, that is what America's about, is American dream. So I don't think that anything is perfect, and there's many things that we need to work on and change. But I think that I would rather say that maybe I think that the good, I think the bad and the ugly, if we work together, can become good.
Yeah, we can definitely minimize them. And I'm really looking forward, especially on my side, on the technology side. It enables a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of globalization happening as well. So even when we were speaking about affordable housing with 3D printing, that's a massive opportunity that could shift ownership and allow people maybe even to start their own 3D printing business for housing, get into the construction game. So it balances out the big players who are buying up a lot of the market share right now when it comes to single family, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the bad is in, single family homes is that, inflation has far, far, far outpaced wages. You know, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm a person that loves graphs and charts, and that's probably from, my wealth management background. But I mean, if you look at the graphs and charts, and we've all heard the stories of our grandparents saying, I used to buy a loaf of bread for a nickel, and we know a loaf of bread costs $8, $9, and maybe 12 if you're at some other grocery stores. There is where the majority of our problems are, right? The cost of goods has far outpaced what we get paid. And so there's an imbalance, even as much as I think some developers do want to build affordable housing, if they don't make any, I mean, this whole thing, is based on at least making some money, if not breaking even. It's really difficult to break even without massive subsidies on affordable housing because it costs to build. The folks that build those houses, they should get paid, and they should get paid fair wages. In my own personal opinion, they should get paid even more. But the individuals that live there don't have the income to be able to pay those high prices. And so, again, there's an imbalance there. And I think, the more that we're able to articulate it and understand it, the more that we could possibly have some type of change there. And I think wages, even though they say that they are going up and creeping up, we really need a massive wage jump, in my personal opinion. And at the end of the day, most people don't save money. They're going to spend it, right? And so it's going to go back into the economy. And I do know that, wage appreciation is in some ways correlated with inflation. Um, but I'm interested in having conversation. I think that we need to have conversations about how do we fix that imbalance.
And do you think that a lot of companies are bringing back their offshore stuff to be onshore? Do you think Miami and the general Florida area is going to be big on that in cutting the supply chains, the global supply chains, and relocalizing things a little bit?
As we look to nearshore more products,
Yeah.
huge opportunity for Miami. We have the number one cargo airport in America and the number two cargo seaport, right? And the seaport has made massive investments and is looking to have an inland port to alleviate some of the pressures on our port here. But that's going to just be a massive opportunity. Logistics and those opportunities. And again, I mentioned all of the food that's grown in Homestead. That's only going to continue to grow. And as we nearshore, right, a lot of the nearshoring, we look at Mexico, but we also look at a lot of the places in South America. And, obviously Miami is, extremely close to that. And I think that it just offers us a huge opportunity to participate, create a ton of jobs. But also, there's a domestic safety and economic stability in being able to do that, that I think makes it really a sound business decision.
Hmm. And you were speaking about the agricultural aspect earlier. Have you been exposed to any agriculture tech or any innovations going on that side that you think is going to be um, very beneficial for the Miami area as well?
I think the world, there's some folks here that are making leather out of discarded salmon fish skins, right? The as we move forward and look to electrify, the number two polluter in the world, after you get, take a look at gasoline, is fashion, right? And so, how do we become more renewable? There's a great company also here in Miami that, recycles cotton and, shreds it up into tiny pieces and fibers so you can use it again and make. They've done the space shoe for Nike. They've done projects with SpaceX and North Face and all of those things. And so, the county is investing in an innovation authority that puts out challenges and they invest money into innovative companies to solve those things. We're really hopeful that some of those things come out of Miami-Dade County. And so, I think that as people, I believe in people, I believe that humans are brilliant. And I believe that, with time and support, we'll come up with some of the solutions to solve some of the problems that we have here.
Absolutely. Michaeljohn, I don't want to overextend. We're coming to the end of the period we had reserved for the podcast. Wanted to ask you, so what kind of opportunities are you really looking for that would be interesting for you if people wanted to reach out? What are you really looking at these days that might be a good opportunity to connect?
Man, I'm really looking at anyone that wants to move and grow their business here in Miami. I'm here to help you. For startups that want to grow and ideate their idea wherever they are in the world, and that includes the business folks, I'm here to help you. And then on the retail level, if you look at downtown and you're familiar with Miami, Brickell is really, really well developed. A lot of great restaurants and buildings down there. Huge, massive opportunity downtown, which is right next to Brickell. That's where the cruise ships let off everyone. I'm really interested in working with the right retail mix to bring that downtown. I think that Miami has always led in entertainment, and I'd say maybe the past 20 years, I would argue the entertainment capital of America. If I was looking to have a good time, I would come down here with Art Basel, F1, even the difference between F1 in Miami and F1 in Las Vegas are, night and day. But I think if you have a retail business and you want a place where you can have, the opportunity for transactions, if you have a diverse business or the business that wants to deliver to a diverse audience, I think that Miami is the place for you. If you have a business that you want to see grow in America for the next 20 or 30 years, Miami looks like what America will look like in 30, 40, 50 years from now, right now, today. So if your business is successful here today, you'll be successful in Nebraska 50 years from now. Your employees will have the cultural competency, you'll have the appropriate leaders, and you kind of already will be tried, true, and tested. Really, not only in a domestic U.S., but also on a global level. And so, my organization, even myself as a human being and individual, are here to help people, I take pride in the relationships that I have, and I take pride in the people that I work with being successful.
Michaeljohn, you've been very inspiring, sharing a great message of hope, and as well very insightful. You're very, very knowledgeable in the whole sector of finance, but as well in business and business growth. So I really appreciate your time spending on this podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience as a last message before we wrap up?
Green, like the color, at miamidda.com. I would love to talk. I'm interested in supporting projects across the world, across the United States. But please do reach out. And Rob, man, I really appreciate the time. I think people setting up conversations like this so that we could talk is really important. People sharing ideas is really important. And so I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to doing this again in the future. So thank you.
Thanks for your time, Michaeljohn.
Have a good one, man.